We live, and I think we will be on LinkedIn as well.
Yep, we're live.
Cool.
Okay. So let's get started. Do you want to wait for a couple of minutes or let's start?
I think we can get started. There are some people on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Okay. Hello, everybody. So, welcome to the finale episode of SciComm Souls. I'm Shweta. I am a third year undergrad here at Regional Institute of Education, Mysore. And to talk a little bit about SciComm Souls, I'm sure you almost have watched previous episodes where we talk to science communicator. We just chat with them and get to know more about their journeys. And if you have missed any of the episodes, it's always up on SciRio's YouTube channel, so feel free to check it out anytime. Today is a special episode because we are going to be talking to none other than Suchitha Champak. So how does it feel to be on the other side, Suchitha?
It's fun, actually. It's kind of a little weird being interviewed under the board of SciRio, but being a guest. But SciComm Souls is always something that the two of us have envisioned, and I'm really happy that we are successfully completing the first season. So yeah, congratulations to all of us.
Congratulations to all of us. And I'm pretty sure you have a lot to talk about today. So I will go ahead and formally introduce you to folks who, I'm pretty sure everybody would know you, but then still. Suchitha is the founder of SciRio, obviously, which is an independent enterprise working on building support of science communicators on the lines of capacity building and exploration of opportunities. She has a master's in human disease genetics and has worked as a cancer biologist at Indian Institute of Science and the Center for Human Genetics for about 2 years. After 1 year as a researcher, she decided that she had enough of it and wanted to go beyond a PhD. Might sound familiar to some folks here today, and yet not leave the field of science. Cut to the present, after many experiments and learning, she's currently building SciRio, about which she is going to talk a lot today, which she envisions to be the backstage of science communication efforts by helping science communicators and science engagement professionals. So, welcome, Suchitha. Welcome to the finale episode of SciComm Souls.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so let's dive right in then. So you worked as a cancer biologist at Indian Institute of Science. So at what point do you think you said, okay, I really want to do something which involves science but not necessarily research? Like, do you have a defined moment as such?
Okay, so in 2017, I finished my master's, and then right after that, I started working as a research fellow at the Indian Institute of Science. There actually, at that point, you can imagine that, after your master's, you want to do your PhD. There's a whole lot of things you do for the applications abroad in India, give all those competitive exams, right? So I was just caught up in all of that, and I really wanted to land a job. And I wrote to a lot of people, for the labs that I was interested in, and landed this opportunity at IISc. So the position that there was no position open when I applied to this lab, but Professor Anupurni Rangarajan at IISc, so she wanted to start off a Drosophila experimentation wing in her lab. And so, since I had the training in that, she said, why don't we get started? And with all the experimentation, we started. But slowly, I sort of realized that there were a lot of internal and external factors which I which pushed me away and made me like sort of dislike academia and research. And also, I think I'm not the first person who's going to be talking about how broken or depressed academia can be, right? So just to give you like in a sense, I agreed to work at the lab for the experience at a low par salary, which I even like received all the payment for my 8 months of work 1 year after I did my job, right? So that was like downright demotivating, and also I couldn't like really be independent because it was my first job and hardly any savings, right? So that was a point when I decided, see, I mean, if the rest of my life is going to be like this, I can't do it, right? So that's why I was thinking about why this sort of happened, and I realized that internally, until at college, I would interact with people like my peers and people in the college, etc. Right? So it was fun, but then at when you have a full-time job as a researcher, most of the time you spend is with your lab members and inside the lab at the bench, right? So I realized that that was something that was limiting me very much. I wanted to go out, like talk to people, explain what I was doing. And whenever I explained to someone, especially like my niece, they would get so excited. Oh wow, you're like finding a cure for cancer. I mean, of course not, but right. So that that awe that people you would express was something that would really get me excited and motivate me to do better, right? So that was a very very big part of my life I was missing out on, and I thought, why not make it a full-time thing, right? And but still I continued working as a researcher. Then I moved to Center for Human Genetics, where so that's where I studied. So I moved back there. I was there for a year. And I was again there working with cells. So, but then in the back end, I was still trying to figure things out, what to do, how to do, because that was the time around when I sort of realized that PhD is not my thing, because and I was so glad I didn't get into any PhD program, because I would have just quit after the first year maybe. Right. So that's when I wanted to explore this interest of mine about talking to people, right? So then I took a detour, and I was thinking how we can tell people stories in the form of stories, tell people about human diseases and how they can manage it, because that was at the intersection I had studied and was sort of working on, right? And then I just took a camera, went around interviewing people, scientists, doctors.
Yeah,
I
which
had
is still on YouTube, by the way.
yeah, I had the privilege to have access to patient groups, patient support groups, because we had a genetic counseling section at Center for Human Genetics. So through that, I could get access to people who were helping each other for genetic disorders, etc. Right? So I used to just pick up a theme, like interview different stakeholders in that particular health condition, and would just put it together in the form of interviews and articles and put it up, right? So then, I mean, it was fun, but then I realized at some point of time that if I want to make it a full-time thing, I really need to see how I can like put food on my plate. So that's when
Right. So
I
first, this was out of passion that you started
did.
out, just interviewing folks and,
Yes.
putting it out there. So,
Yes.
okay, then when did it really click for you that, this is something that I really want to pursue further and, become an entrepreneur, right? In
Yeah.
science
Yeah.
communication field. So when did that happen?
There was this point where I just dove in, and I didn't think about all of this. I don't know if that was a wise choice or a silly one, because I just quit my job without a plan. I just knew that I wanted to go out, tell stories to people, interview, researchers, doctors, and all of that. But I didn't know how to do it or what to do to make it a company. I just knew that I wanted to be independent, because that way I can control things, and pivot however I want to, if things are working, if things are not working, right? So I quit my job at CHG in 2019, mid 2019, and just started off SciRio. I mean, it was just a name; it wasn't anything. So I associated myself with a then newly formed trust, where they, wanted to sort of help startups um, build their companies, right? So, but it was a very short-lived thing, about 6 to 8 months, 6 months actually, and then I quit and I wanted to do it independently, right? So that was around the time. It was pre-pandemic, that is like Jan February 2020. And then in March, everything shut down, and I had no job to do, and I was just at home. I was just that's when I think I had a lot of time and space to think about it, and that's when I also overcame that feeling of, okay, I don't have a job. What do I do? I mean, because everyone's at home, it's okay for me to be at home as well, and that's when I started. I had a lot of ideas. I mean, I wanted to do training. I wanted to do interviews. I wanted to do everything. Like, I just wanted to set up this, like, whatever a some science communicator needs. I wanted to do that, but of course, I did not have the resources, the money, time, whatever. Right. So around that time was when I sort of connected with few people who were actually communicating science. That was so the first. Not the first one, but the second one, community that I became a part of was the SciComm Sci Club that Siddharth Kankaria started at NCPS, right? So that was the first time when I actually publicly spoke about SciRio, and talked to them about the
Okay, so
ideas.
this was after SciRio. After you had already
Yeah, so
started
this
SciRio.
was December 2019. So I had
Right.
started SciRio, but it was just like a website, and there was nothing else. So yeah, so that's when I, sort of spoke to people, got in touch, and I actually realized that, this community is very active and vibrant on Twitter, right? So that's when I started reaching out to people, connected with them, discussed ideas. Also, a lot of people approached me asking if they can be of help, and we tried figuring things out, and yeah, that's how it happened.
Right. So awesome. So you say that these connections turned out to be super helpful, right? So can you elaborate a little bit about how these formal and maybe also informal networks have helped you become who you are and do what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, I mentioned this SciComm Sci Club was the second community, but the first one was in 2018 when I was selected to be a part of this workshop called the Women in Science Journalism workshop that was organized by together by the British Council and ISER Pune, and was supported by India Bioscience, right? So I was just trying to figure out and get some training, and then I got selected here. And this was a 4-day in-person workshop. Um, and I'm so glad and grateful for that group, because I see a lot of people in my cohort going further. I can take names right away, where Suchitha, who's at India Bioscience, and there's so many people who are doing wonderfully, and discussing ideas with them, what they wanted to do, and all of that. That sort of opened a plethora of ideas and opportunities to connect with people, to know more about what they're doing across the country, and all of that, right? So that was the first one, and the second one is this SciComm Sci Club. Although it was a relatively small one, but it was a very enriching one, because we did have very, very interesting conversations. So I think I'd say that these were the only two, like, in-person community networking sessions I was a part of, like, before the pandemic. But I've connected with a lot of people on the internet, like on LinkedIn and Twitter mostly. And the two of us also have been doing this for a while,
Yeah.
but we haven't met in person. So it has been a wonderful experience to connect with people. When I say people, it need not be people who are experts in the field, right? It's so interesting to know how and why people are motivated to do science communication, and also to sort of feed off of their inspiration, for doing SciComm, right? So I never miss an opportunity to talk to people who are just trying to figure things out, because they need guidance, and I was in that place at some point of time. So I never not respond to an email or a message when someone comes asking me asking for help, right? So that was one group, and another group is people who are already in the field for a while now, and also are doing wonderfully, in their own style, right? So these are wonderful experiences that I've had and am having. So I really wish I can meet people in person, and share that bonding of and that passion we have for science communication sometime soon.
Right. I really hope so too. And by the way, in the comments, Juanito says hi to Suchitha, and
Hi.
Bhanureka
Hi.
complimented Suchitha for being an inspiration.
That's my mom.
I'm assuming you. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. My
Great.
brother and my mom are watching it.
Ah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, okay then. Maybe then, do you want to talk about how family has been supporting you throughout this unique journey of yours? Because I think that's something that not a lot of people talk about. So maybe you can take this chance to talk about it.
I mean, my parents were disappointed when I told them I didn't want to do a PhD.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, it took some time for them to figure it out as well, because one thing, I wasn't clear myself, so I wasn't in a position to explain it very well to them, tell them what my vision was. I just told them, I wanted to build this company, and they're like, what are you going to do? You just did a master's, and you've been trained in research. How are you going to do this, right? So it did take some time, but everyone's been very supportive, and is very supportive, especially my parents, my brother, my partner, my mother-in-law and father-in-laws. So they've been very, very supportive, and never have made me feel that I'm doing something only by myself, right? So most of the conversations, in fact, I have with my brother are about, so he's a software engineer, and so I keep bugging about, the corporate world, how companies work, how this software works, all of that, right? So these are interesting conversations I have with them. And my mom, she has had years of experience running a preschool, and a lot of these activities and courses like abacus and all of that. So she also has that experience. My dad's a pharmacist, so typically ours is a business family. So I can feed off of the knowledge and experience all of these people have, right? So yeah.
Wow, that's really cool to know, Suchita. Well, maybe we've actually collated some questions from our previous participants. So I'm just going to go ahead and share them across to you.
Okay.
So maybe we can take this up when you're sort of overwhelmed by thoughts of uncertainty and doubt, specifically expressed by others around you. How do you keep yourself motivated? And this comes from Mrunal Kulkarni, who happens to be a participant at SciComm Souls 2.0. So do you want to answer that?
Okay. Yeah. So I'm a little confused about the question. So overwhelm my thoughts of uncertainty and doubt about what I'm doing, or
yes,
about
what you
how
are doing, but with running an organization.
Yeah. I mean, this happens more than how much I think about, because it happens a lot of times, especially when 6 months ago, or rather 1 year ago, when I was by myself trying to figure things out. I mean, I would drown myself in all those thoughts and be like, okay, can I do it? Can I figure it out? Can I get through with this? Is it even going to work? Is it even worth the idea, as an enterprise? Because there are a lot of successful organizations that are not for profit, or being supported by giant institutes or the government. But as an independent enterprise, I haven't seen anything so far in India, right? So that is something that I really want to achieve, but always I always have that thought in my mind if it's going to work, right? So I mean, what I would do actually is give into it, just go down that rabbit hole of the thought process of why I started, how I started it, and how I've changed. I mean, to be frank, last week I was sitting and writing down a list of things that we accomplished in the last year, 2021. And wow, it's so surreal to say 2021 as the last year.
I know, right?
And
Yeah.
it was a very big list of things that we had achieved at SciRio, and I was very, very proud of it, right? So it really helps to recount what all you've achieved, small or big, doesn't matter, and put yourself in a position of positivity, saying that, okay, sure, I mean, I'm not the best or on top of the world, but I'm better than what I was yesterday, right? So that really helps. And also, if there's a point where you have that uncertainty or doubt when something has not worked, I would think about, so for anything that, for that matter, I would think about why this didn't work and how can I make it work, rather than feeling bad about, oh, this didn't work, right? So that is something that the conscious thought process I have sort of practiced for myself, because there's no point crying over spilled milk. And I mean, even like for a minute, it isn't worth it. But of course, we're all humans, and we flow by the emotions, and it's okay for you to give in. So accept yourself that, okay, this didn't work, but then quickly come back and think about how can you make it work next time, or how can you make it better next time.
Okay, so
Yeah.
just to summarize, be grateful for even the smallest of your accomplishments. And second, if things didn't work, you in retrospect, you might be able to look back and say, okay, this is why it didn't work, and this is how I can do better, right? Is that how you would think about
Yes.
something?
Yes.
Okay, awesome, great. Okay, then maybe let's. Okay, I think I have a follow-up question. Um, so, you said that SciRio is like one of its kind, right? Even I really, really think so too. So, how enriching has the experience of catering to science communicators has really been? And this is that also what keeps you going, because you talked about your accomplishments and all that.
Yeah. So for me, something, I mean, irrespective of SciRio or SciComm, what excites me is that I'm doing something new, I'm doing something different, I'm doing something interesting, is what excites me more and motivates me more than anything. Right. So actually, when I began SciRio, it was to be a platform, to communicate science. But later on, I realized that there are a lot of people doing things that I'm doing, and maybe in a much better way. And to even get at par to them or go beyond that, it would take a lot of time. But I was ready for that. But I sort of also realized that there are a lot of people doing this, but the kind of support system they need is lacking, and everyone's struggling with it. So everyone's trying to reinvent the wheel, trying to figure out how they can become independent science communicators, make money out of it, or get that right skills. So I thought, okay, why don't I be that place, right? So for me, it's about I do it, or if there is someone doing better, how can I nurture them, right? So
Right, right.
I also slowly realize that science communication is something that needs a lot of skills together, and you can always and only work in a team and be successful. As an individual, you can accomplish only so much, right? So I thought, maybe why not be that person in the backstage supporting science communicators, push their limits, help them do better, and support them in any way they can, right? So that's when actually SciRio pivoted from science communication itself to supporting science communicators. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So the comment says, I mean, there is someone called Parth Mengal. I don't know if you know them. They say hello to you from
Hi,
ISO
Parth.
Tirupati. And then someone, I think, is one of your
That's my brother.
is he your brother? Okay, he says she's one of the most courageous people I know, and I think that's one of the reasons why SciRio has come this far, and I completely agree with that.
Wow,
Right.
he's not so social, and I'm so proud to see him post that comment. Thank you
Right.
so
Awesome.
much. Yeah.
Okay. Um, so I think this is going to be one of my final questions for the life story segment, which is your favorite question, which is, how does your typical day in a life look like?
Actually, my everyday changes, like, from day to day. And also, so far, I've worked in such a manner that I don't differentiate a weekend or a weekday, but I make sure that I take off a day or two in the week, right? So it can be like Tuesday, Wednesday, depending on the kind of work, right? And also, a lot of the times, when we don't have any workshops or projects going on, it's just me with my laptop and my notebook. I just keep thinking about what I can do, how I can do better, write down some ideas, and also read up and look up different tools that can help me, because in the beginning, when I started SciRio, I sort of explored um, different tools I can use, and I was enamored by how much technology has progressed, and me being in the silo didn't even realize that there are so many tools I can make good use of, right? So now, if I need to solve a problem, that's the first thing I go and search on the internet, saying, is there any tool for that to help me solve that problem? Right? So a lot of times it's about trying to figure out the problems, how I can solve it. And it's mostly when I'm sitting and reflecting on how things went by, how I want to do better, or if there is or some days I just pick up this problem and think about
Mm-hmm.
how I can solve it as an individual or as an organization, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's, yeah, that's most of the days. But otherwise, if we have any projects or workshops that are planned, so planning for them, or even a lot. And also, it I like this part of the day, but I also don't like it, is responding to
Mm-hmm.
emails, because I really wish I can just for a lot of the emails I can just respond to them with a voice note and not type it
Mm-hmm.
out. And also, some of the
Yeah.
responses need to be thought out and do some little bit of 5-10 minute job to respond to
Mm-hmm.
them. So yeah, that's, emails take up a lot of time, and I'm trying to segment my day and be more organized this year. So let's see.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds very diverse and varied, and like doesn't really have a structure per
Yeah.
se, but you're making it work somehow. You've got all these awesome
Yeah.
workshops and a
But
lot of other stuff, which
also,
I'm sure you're talking. Yeah.
now, I mean, this sort of worked when I was working alone, because I could, keep up with the timeline. But the last 1 year, I've had one or two interns at the same time and coordinating with them. And these interns, whom I would want to give a big shout out to, Meghna Girish, who was the first intern here. And then we had Devanshi Gupta right now, and also Romita.
Yeah.
These three have been like great support. And so with them, they were all working part-time, so I had to sync with their schedules, and also have tasks to be done. So if we had to collaborate, or it's usually in the evening once their day job or college is done, right? So I mean, I'm trying to figure out a pattern or format for my day, but yeah, I'm still figuring it out. Yeah.
Right. And Shreya says that she agrees with the email bit that you just finished.
Yeah, of course. I'm sure she
She-
knows.
Right. Okay, I think that wraps up our first live story segment, and we now move on to rapid fire, which you usually
Oh,
used to
wow.
do, but it's now on me. So I felt really lonely having to do this all by myself. So to spice it up, we have some others joining in as hosts as well.
Okay.
So hold on. So let's get going. So this is the first question for you, Suchitha. I hope you can hear this.
First, if you had to
Could you start from the beginning? I
one
can't
word,
hear. I can't hear
that
you.
word.
Oh,
Second,
okay. Could you not hear it at all?
No. So can you? I missed the first part.
Okay. Let me rewind it a little bit. Okay, here we are.
if you had to describe what SciRio means to you in just one word, what would that word be?
Yeah. If you had to
Okay.
describe, this is Meghna Girish, who Suchitha just now mentioned.
She's someone who keeps challenging me like this and asks me to describe it in one word. Okay. I don't know.
You have to be quick, Suchitha. This is rapid fire.
Wow. And it's all coming to bite me back. Yeah. SciRio in one word, I would say is one thing I am living for right now, because that's become my first priority. Because I really want this to work and be the best. Yeah. So.
Awesome. Okay. So I would go ahead and ask you a couple of questions now. How would you describe SciRio to a fellow entrepreneur outside of science?
Sorry, could you repeat that? Your screen is being shared, if that is.
Okay. Let me stop sharing. Okay. So how would you describe SciRio to a fellow entrepreneur outside of science?
I'm still trying to get my punchline, but I would say, I would say SciRio is an enterprise that is consulting. That consults researchers, research institutes, and organizations in communications and outreach, while also facilitating training and providing opportunities for science communicators.
So would they know what science communication means?
Of course, not a lot of people are aware of science communication, but the pandemic has made it easier for me to explain it to them. So when someone asks what science communication is and what we do, I just tell them, so do you know that those people who make your infographics on how the virus works or the vaccine works? And they said, yes. Yeah, that's what we do.
Awesome.
So
Okay,
that's how I
cool.
explain it to people. Yeah.
Okay, so you've worn many hats at SciRio, right? Editor, you organize workshops, moderate stuff. So, if you had to pick a favorite, which one would that be?
As a role?
Yep, as a role.
Okay. Public speaking is my favorite thing, and so like hosting shows and events and workshops is something that I really am passionate about. I mean, of course, with SciRio, when I'm organizing, I need to handle the back end of it. So I don't like that part, but yeah, that's something that I do. But otherwise, as a whole, thinking about solutions for any problems is like, I mean, you could say like a thinker sort of person.
Okay,
Yeah,
thinker.
Innovator,
Maybe. Innovator is something.
Yeah. Yeah,
that I
that's
can think of.
something I really enjoy for
Right. So, thinking of innovation, how do you usually come up with such innovative ideas in the SciComm sphere?
I mean,
What's your
of course,
knack? You have to be
of
quick.
course, it's not just about the solution, but it's about the problem, and that's what I've learned from the startup or entrepreneurs world. Because only when you have a problem, you need a solution. Otherwise, whatever you're building is just something for fun as a hobby. So yeah.
Cool. So, what is something that you have never thought you would do for SciRio but ended up doing it?
I'm not a fan of being an editor or writer because it's not. It's not that I don't know or don't want to do it, but it's something that takes up a lot of my time. And actually, that's how I started with SciRio. But then once so many other things started off, I couldn't like find the time for it. So I really wish I can have one more person on at SciRio and then please take care of the blog.
Right. Okay, cool. We have another question from Shreya, who just now had put in a comment. So let's replay that.
So my second question to you is that when you decided to start SciRio, you definitely motivated a lot of young women to explore leadership opportunities. Do you have like a piece of advice that you would like to share with these young women who would most likely follow your footsteps?
Hey Shia, thank you so much for the words of inspiration and also the support. Yes, of course, it's very important for people in science to look for and develop leadership opportunities. It could be in academia, in the industry, or if you want to, etch your paths individually and, do something of your own. I'm sure you are learning a lot as like the founder or co-founder of Stimulus NGO that you're running, right? So, the one thing that has always helped me as an entrepreneur is to look out for solutions or opportunities outside of the network and the facet of science. Like say, for example, like I just mentioned that I tried exploring because with the little resources and time I had to figure out how I can maximize my efforts, and so technology and the tools that I'm using sort of help me, right? So that you don't learn as a trained researcher, of course, right? So also for a lot of the problems that you face as an entrepreneur or when you're building business or a team, right? So you're not the first person, and there are so many people outside of the sciences who have figured it out, right? So try connecting with people who have the skill set already, right? So you can maybe reach out to so if you want to build an NGO, reach out to founders of NGOs who, that NGO need not be related to science itself, but just to understand and know what kind of experience they've gone through. Or if you're looking to build a good team, try reaching out to people who are leading leadership roles in the corporate world, or people, I don't know, anywhere else, right? So okay, my brother is laughing at the word text. But yeah. So what I just want to say is like expand your network beyond people in the sciences and academia to, if you want to learn other skills and build yourself as an individual, as a leader, as an entrepreneur. That I would say.
Right.
And
Okay.
seek out for help. Seek out for help. There is no problem. You can tell them that I have not been trained in this. I need help. Can you teach me? Can you mentor me? Right. So
Okay.
yeah.
Go beyond your area of expertise to reach out to folks and seek opportunity. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so the next question is, if you lost everything you did for SciRio, how would you begin?
Okay, don't say that. But okay, so in the case that I lose everything that I did for SciRio, I've been the one who's built it, so I know that there's no other way out but to rebuild it again. But of course, the turnaround time would be shorter. So start with the website,
Because
with
you've
the
already
social
learned stuff. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So what does the name SciRio actually mean?
An interesting one. So actually, when I started out for SciRio, I actually envisioned this enterprise to become a science radio channel, national radio channel, just talking about science. I was really inspired by Radio Lab and a lot of like the podcasts and all of that, and so that's why I thought about science radio, SciRio. It was just serendipitous. When I came up with the name, I liked it and I decided it's going to be that. But after that, I sort of realized that this format is very limiting, and I don't want to limit myself again. So that's when I started exploring the video interviews and all of that. But the name stuck along. But I have a tagline for SciRio: broadcasting knowledge, right? So, but that need not be in the literal sense. So it's sort of that personified sense of spreading the knowledge of science, or rather helping people in instilling the scientific temper in people's everyday lives and thoughts. Yeah, so that's what SciRio is.
Awesome. Okay, so we will take up one last question from the videos that we have. So, okay, let's go back to Meghna and let her ask you the last question of the rapid fire.
3. If you had an opportunity or a chance to give some advice to the Suchitha who was maybe a little nervous on starting her own business, what advice or suggestion would you give to her?
Yeah.
Ditch the PhD applications.
Wow.
Said that
Okay.
to myself because I've realized that I have spent quite a bit of time in applying to labs, writing these PhD applications, going for interviews, and all of that. And it took a lot of my time and my mental energy into putting all of these applications together. And after a point, actually, when I sort of realized that I'm going to quit academia, it dawned upon me. It's not that it wasn't there before, but I chose not to see it. But I realized that I knew I didn't want to do it, but I was going along with it because everyone else was doing it, and I didn't know what else to do. Right? So I really tell myself, like, don't waste your time there.
Right. Awesome. That was super fun, Suchitha. And in the chat, Shashikant says hello from IIT Bhilai.
Hi. Wow, very nice to know so many new people here during the
Uh-huh.
chat.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so this finishes our rapid fire segment, and we now move on to thought process segment. And you've decided to talk about SciRio itself, which is very, very interesting. And I'm pretty sure nobody needs an introduction to SciRio. But I would like you to introduce SciRio like in a way that you've never introduced before. So, in one sentence, introduce SciRio now.
Okay. SciRio is a private enterprise that is working on enabling science communicators in India and abroad. So we really don't have set boundaries and formats to communicate science or support science communicators. So if you have an idea, if you want to experiment something in SciComm, just don't hesitate, reach out. Because I think SciComm Souls also became one such project, and that's what it is right now. And we're really open to collaborating with science communicators or people who are interested to, need that support and help as a team or an organization to execute their, public engagement activities or SciComm activities, right? So that way I would say that this is the place you want to pitch your ideas to if you want to execute something like really unique and interesting, and if no one else is collaborating with you.
Right. I think before I move on to the next question, Shweta Ramdas here said that how does one reach out to collaborate? And I think you've just talked
Yeah,
about it now.
just email me whatever with your ideas and we can take it forward.
Awesome. Okay, so for the next question, we will again go back to our video archives. So this is Ruchi, one of our participants from SciComm Souls.
I can't hear her.
Uh-huh. At all?
No.
All right, hold up. I will share my screen again. Share screen.
Wow, you guys have put in a lot of effort for this, getting videos and all, man. I'm really
I'm
happy.
so glad I got this opportunity to
Very
ask a
sweet.
question to you. Firstly, I want to thank you for hosting the workshop. Without it, we wouldn't have had our podcast, India Ask Why. So, my question to you is that as somebody who is new to this field, this area of science communication, how did you know what you had to do? Like, your initiative is one of its kind, and you help out new science communicators. So how did you know that you have to have a workshop like this, or how did you know that these are the people you need to bring on, and how did you know that the platform you had selected is the right one or not, or like how did you know what you had to do? I'm curious.
To be honest, I didn't know. I mean, I told you, right? So I just started off with a problem. I wanted to help myself, talk to more people, build that awe in people's minds and say that, oh, wow, like I did not know this worked this way. And this is how maybe I can make it more interesting, right? So that's how I started, and then I tried to work my way through it. And the real pivot for SciRio was when I realized that I don't want to be in the front line of SciComm, but rather be that supportive person or organization to science communicators. And I realized that there are very few people who are doing this, and also it's not very easy to achieve. So when I realized that that is the position that I wanted to take, I thought about, I just listed down whatever problems people were facing at different stages of their life. There are so many people who have been in the field for a while. They have a few problems. Some people who just started out, they don't know how to, train themselves, etc. Right? So I spoke to a lot of people, like, I don't know, 40, 50 people. I made that as an exercise. I sat, discussed with them, asked them, what are the issues that you're facing and what would help them, let's say, if you think there are a bunch of courses that we curate, so would that help, and all of that, right? So I actually went out and asked people what would help them, and based on the inputs that I got, I sort of prioritized based on what was the immediate need and which was the one I could execute faster, right? So these were the things that sort of helped me get a direction. And even now, you can see that SciRio is sort of still evolving. 2020, we mostly focused on the blog, where we helped beginners in SciComm experiment with writing videos and podcasts, etc. Whereas after that, we pivoted, and 2021 was mostly about training. We held about 6 workshops through the year. And that was the focus, right? So based on what kind of experience that I'm receiving, feedback I'm receiving, I try to make things better and do something new that can help solve the problem. I'm sure you were also part of the first workshop, right? So
Yeah.
know how in detail the feedback form. Sometimes I think about how big the feedback form is in comparison to the application form itself, and I'm like, so grateful for all the participants who have given me feedback, especially the ones who just given critical feedback, and also to people who've given me ideas saying that you could probably do this better next time, right? So yeah, based entirely truly based on the kind of feedback that I've received, I've done whatever I've done inside.
Right. So what you're saying is that if you're starting something new, asking for feedback is critical and has been
Yes,
critical to SciRio
absolutely,
as well.
absolutely. Yes, like I
Right.
told you, right? So only wherever there is a problem will your solution be of value. Otherwise, it's just a hobby.
Okay, awesome. So now can you talk a little bit about the different arms of SciRio? I mean, you mentioned workshops and, even Ruchi
Yeah.
and many of us were a part of the workshop, but then there are other arms like, you've done a little bit of blogging before. Now you also have SciComm. I'm pretty sure you have a lot to talk about that as well. And you also do consultancy, I suppose. So maybe you could talk a little bit about all these different aspects of SciRio?
Sure. So at SciRio, like I said, things are and were and are experimental and trying to figure out the best fit in terms of like what we offer or how we can help people, and also in the best way for us to sustain. Right. So based on all of that, like with all the trade-offs that I've seen, so right now I can say that we have these important verticals at SciRio. One is the SciComm Hub. So that is the blog section where people can pitch. So specifically, we encourage beginners who have little or no experience in SciComm pitch their ideas for different formats. It need not be writing. Um, so we want this blog to be multi-sensory, so that's why we don't really call it a blog but a hub. So it could be in the form of writing, podcasting, videos, or even art-based articles, right? So these are the four main formats that we're looking at. So you can pitch your idea to us, and we can get that published on our website, right? So that's the first vertical that we started off with. The next one was SciComm Light and SciComm Fosters. They are like typically the workshops that we do. So this is not exactly a workshop because we have different components to the workshop. The first one is learning, and then the second one is assignments or taking action, and the third one is feedback. So every workshop we design will have these three elements where you first learn the concept or the skill, and then you give in an assignment, you do it, and then you get the feedback from the same expert who has taken this exercise or workshop for you, right? So that way it gives you a complete loop, and where you stand and how you can improve further, right? So that's the second one. And the third one is SciComm, the e-store that we launched last October. So here, so far we just have one product, but the vision of this e-store is to support science communicators, or rather creators in science, speak about science, communicate science beyond the confines of the internet or the website, right? So the idea is to list products that or merchandise that help you make conversations around science, right? Like, for example, you have a pen that has a picture of a DNA that is replicating, and that is lying on your table, and your niece comes up and is like, "Oh, what is this? This is an interesting design." And then you have that opportunity to talk about one of the most fascinating molecules that has been made on Earth, right? So that's the vision for SciComm. And the fourth one, which is not very well advertised for, and I'm still like sort of figuring out, is the consulting service that we offer for research organizations and enterprises, where we help them in any form of outreach or communications. So we are a very small team of two, but we have a good network of people who have different skill sets. So based on the project that we get, we approach freelancers or people in our network who would be interested to take part in the project, make a team, and execute the project, right? So this is how it works right now. But further, I'm trying to see how we can, improvise on the processes of all four of them. Yeah.
Right. And I'm assuming that in all four of this, you are nurturing the complete cycle of SciComm, as you call it. So maybe you can talk a little more about that.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up. So when I call it the entire cycle of SciComm, a lot of people think about SciComm unilaterally and also a lot of people have this misconception that SciComm is equal to science writing. and is just limited to pitching articles to your editors in different on different platforms, offline and online, right? So I want to break that barrier and let people think about SciComm more abstractly, and say that SciComm can be at different levels, and at different stages of anything. Like, for example, when you're having a conversation with your friend, or it could be, you have your article published, so how are you going to talk about it with your neighbor in your apartment or something like that, right? So I want people to think about SciComm in a more open manner. So for that, and also I through this process I've realized that it's not just about doing SciComm that is the challenge, but also creating awareness in the community of science and outside that SciComm is a thing, right? So first we need to address and create that sort of awareness that science communication is in fact lurking in the dark, but is a very important factor in society that is tying us all together. While also it's very important to nurture and train people who are doing it, because it's very, very important. And I don't have to emphasize on the importance of the right communication that needs to be done, right? So it's about creating awareness about communicating science itself, and it's the way you communicate science, and in between that we have training on how well to communicate it, how best to communicate it, which is the right tool, element, or form of engagement or communication you pick up for a particular thing, right? So these are the three things. And the fourth part is also how do we sustain this community of science communicators, right? So there are a lot of people who approach me and ask me, what, I'm really keen on writing, science writing. Maybe I even also have some experience, but I can't find enough opportunities, or I don't know how to go about it. I want to make this a full-time thing, but is not helping me sustain myself, right? So that is one of the major problems that we're sort of seeing because of the first thing in the cycle, because people are not aware of how important this exact exercise is, right? See, let me just give you an example. Like, there's this PhD student who's about to publish her paper, and then she wants to depict some particular mechanism on in her paper, and what she does is just draws those rectangles and squares and puts all the arrows. But what they don't realize is there's someone in their lab who is artistically more enabled, and
Inclined.
they can help her depict her processes better. And that way it's not just supporting or helping this creator in science help you communicate your research, but also elevates the quality of research output that researchers in India are giving out on their papers, right? So it's always a win-win situation, who's receiving or taking the service, or and also the person who's giving the service. So once there is an increase in the number of opportunities that science communicators can get, again, so there it will open up a lot of opportunities for people to talk about it in, let's say, colleges or institutes, and tell them that see, you can make a living out of this as well, right? So that completes the cycle, telling that these are, so I really want to nurture all four stages, but yeah, of course, one step at a time.
Right. So one of my final questions would be that when would you consider yourself, SciRio, to have been successful in each of these stages? So what does success mean to you essentially?
I actually would say that I might be cliche, but then I would say that success is not a destination but a journey. Because when you sit back and evaluate how much further you've come from wherever you were maybe 1 year ago or 2 years ago, that is success in itself. Because to talk about it financially, I would say that I started with 0 rupees 2021, and now I have a very good sustainable business now with cash flow, where I can afford to have interns and also afford to build a team, right? So that is success for me for 2021. So now the goalpost shifts for 2022, right? So of course it keeps improving, and let's say even I plan that I need to do 12 workshops this year, one a month, and sure, I do that. That is success. But the next year, how do I improve it, right? So do I improve on the quality and the quantity of the workshops, or I just stick to 12 workshops and improve the quality of the workshops, right? So I'd say that I've come a long way, and I'm really glad that has happened so far in 2021. But yes, of course, there's a long way to go ahead in the next few years.
Yeah, and I really hope that you will have a fruitful journey if that's what you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. I think that sort of wraps up our SciRio, our thought process segment. Are there any things that you want to talk about that I've probably missed out?
No, I think I'm glad you've covered everything that I sort of really
But I
wanted
know,
to talk about.
it's building an organization is, I know, a lot, and, you cannot cover it all in like 15, 20
Of
minutes.
course.
But yes.
Thank you so much, Aditya, for your wishes. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. It means
And
a
your
lot.
mom
And
has also been blessed.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much,
So
everyone.
yeah, and also if people have any questions, you can always jot them down. Devanshi, who's one of the interns at SciRio, is keeping a tab, and she will put it up for us.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Okay.
I can go ahead with some couple of questions which we've already had. If that's okay with you, Suchitha. Meanwhile, if people have questions, they can. Yeah.
Go on.
Alrighty. So this is. Let me go to this one. So, okay, this is Meghna Girishan. So she asks, how has your lab experience sort of helped you build SciRio?
Interesting. So I think when you're trained as a researcher, you're trained to be taught in a certain way. You know, you have an assumption, build a hypothesis, and test if it's true or not, right? So that is something that has helped me a lot, because in 2021 I have experimented immensely, like in small scale and large scale, to figure out what's the best to do. So that was one major plus. Apart from that, a lot of understanding that goes in knowing that things will be very different on the textbook and on bench, is something. So you have realized that expectation and reality can be very different. So that is something that I've sort of taken along with my experience in the lab. And also, of course, right? So, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm the best person to have planned very well, but I do sort of have like short-term plans, long-term plans, how do we execute, and all of that, right? So that has sort of helped me as a researcher.
Right. Awesome. So do you have any sort of recommendations, resource recommendations for folks who might be interested in entrepreneurship and science communication? I'm pretty sure there aren't any. I mean, I don't really know anybody who's been doing something that you've been doing. So I'm sure you have something to, tell us.
I mean, I would say that exploration is your best friend, and every entrepreneur's journey is very unique, because of the skills that you bring to the table, and also the kind of organization you're going to build, right? So every person, every entrepreneur's journey is unique. But I would certainly say, for people specifically in the sciences, that please keep your mind open. And like I said, it's nothing like it when you reach out to people, and make friends and interact with people outside of the field of sciences, right? So that has immensely opened my eyes to sort of give a different perspective of how I'm thinking, and also maybe a better way to solve a particular problem, etc. Right? So I think these two are some things that are very important. And also, of course, in general, leadership, entrepreneurship, and productivity books, podcasts, or any resources of those kinds really help. Um, I mean, I was an avid reader, but now I'm trying to revive that habit from the past couple of months. So it really helps to know how people have done it and how people think it's a better way to do it, because you can always draw inspiration and parallels to what people have achieved, right? So I think reading books of people, um, of great leaders, can really help you give a very good perspective. I mean, to give you an example, the last book that I read was the personal account of Indra Nooyi, the CEO of PepsiCo, and I mean, that is a very nice book. I mean, it's not a book that I would say that, she laid out the entire business plan of PepsiCo for you, but it just showed how she evolved as a woman, and in the world of business at the time when she was the only woman most of the time at the table, right? So it's also very important for you to count, if you're a woman, that it's, you have to put, if not more, like at least the double effort that you have to put to make something work. So you always have to keep that in mind. I mean, I know it's pathetic, but there's no workaround for it until so far. So you should always keep that in mind and always be very confident. It's okay if things don't work out, and it it's okay to ask for help.
Wow, that's some really good pieces of resource and recommendations, I'd say. Okay, so let's end with the question that I personally had, which is, what is next for SciRio? What have you been planning?
I mean, this
You
is
can
what I've
reveal
been
it.
doing for the last 2 weeks, trying to figure out what to do for 2022. I mean, I wanted to do this for a while now, but considering that everything's been online and because of the lockdown and pandemic, I haven't been able to do it. But I really want to build um, an offline community where we meet, we talk, discuss. So that is something that I'm looking at, maybe at the level of colleges, where maybe I can go interact with people, or even have meetups for people in the field to try discuss your problems. It could be offline or online, I don't know, because Omicron I don't know how long it's going to stay for and how miserable it's going to make our lives. But yeah, so building a community, a formal community, is something that I'm looking at for 2022. Yeah, let's see.
Great. I really wish you all the best with all your future
Thank you so
endeavors.
much.
Okay, with that, I think we come to a close to our finale episode of season 1. So
Yes,
thank you so
absolutely.
much
Congratulations,
for
Shweta.
agreeing to talk with us, because we sort of reached out to you and
Yeah.
said, Suchitha, come on, let's have you on the finale episode, and you sort of agreed. So
Yeah, I remember. I remember how
yeah.
skeptical I was. I was like, "Oh no, should I talk?" But I'm really glad you talked me into it, and congratulations to both of us to bring this first season of
Yep.
SciComm Souls to a close. And I really hope people do get the best of it, and hopefully it helps people. So yeah.
Yep. Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone who's been
Yeah.
here on the
Your
show.
mom says you have laid a good foundation for SciRio. Let me say that bit. I completely agree.
You know what? Actually, she for one of the interviews that got published a few months ago at the Assam Tribune, after that she called me and she's like, I kind of know you more and better once I've read your interviews, so maybe you should do more. because that's what happens a lot of times. But I'm glad she was there for the entire thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's still there, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, everyone. And
Yep. And we
we'll
will
see
come
you.
back with the season 2 very
Yeah,
soon, hopefully. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay.